My Lords, there was some extensive conversation about the role of banks in a previous group, and I probably got carried away with my own hyperbole when I said they were being coerced into being involved, and the noble Lady Baroness Anderson corrected me. But I do think that we can say that they are compelled, however, to be involved, and there are financial penalties that will be levied if they do not, that become increasingly punitive, if they do not do as the government is requesting. And I think that if they get those penalties, not only the cost might not be the issue, but there would certainly be reputational damage. So I do think that we have to have a context here in recognising that the banks aren't queuing up to do this, and I think that is an important point that the noble Lord Davis of Brixton has made, that there's a reluctance here at some of the things that are happening with this bill that I think the government can admit to, and I think myself that the government has reassured us, and in all of the literature that the government's produced and in conversations that we've had so far, we're constantly, those of us worried about privacy, being reassured that there are limitations on the type of data that the banks will share. And on the other hand, I think that the way that the government is dealing with that is that they're saying the banks will be fined, there will be a penalty if they overshare or if they provide inaccurate information. So this penalty has, I fear, the impact again of pushing the blame and responsibility onto banks for any errors, and that makes me nervous because it's not clear to me how they won't see that anyone on benefits is just a pain in the neck for them, because they now have to go through an exercise of checking that they are being compelled to do or they will be fined, or they will be get into trouble. And then if they get the information wrong, if they hand over the wrong information, then they can be fined again. And so inevitably, and this is why I'm interested in these amendments, inevitably, surely they must associate this work, this eligibility verification notices and the work that they're being asked to do as being something associated with those on benefits, and therefore creating more work, more jeopardy for them. I also think that they are being held responsible for things which they shouldn't necessarily be responsible for. And so I would be interested to know how the Minister feels, because I think it's a reasonable query at this point to say, isn't there a problem of private banks being asked to be government inspectors? Because there is a kind of, I think it was one of the MPs, saying that the purpose of banks is not to act as an arm of the state. How private banks should respond to the fact that the state is asking them to do a huge amount more than they were in relation to this clampdown on fraud, in relation to the DWP and welfare. It feels to me as though ultimately we're asking the banks to do what the government should be doing, and the banks will get the blame if things go wrong, and they are the ones who are going to be doing the surveillance, no matter which way we look at it.